Well, now 3/5 of the crowd just want to hear from Xander.
Yes. So, I mean, you can go to me on anything if you want.
Xander, opening slide, go.
Opening slide. So, well, I've already talked about it at length to the previous one person that we had in here.
Everything on the opening slide.
Don't go to me for everything.
Why not?
I'll chime in when I know stuff.
So never.
Oh.
Sick burn.
Sick burn.
Sick burn.
Can I trust the boomer to take a selfie?
Me?
Yeah.
No. But I'll do it.
You'll do it.
Stick your arm out and I'll hold the phone.
He's taking a selfie of himself. That you did that to yourself.
Us.
You did that to yourself.
Yeah.
Other arm?
Wait,
Yes.
just flip your phone
Flip-
and then
it's my
take it with
phone.
your left hand. There you go.
You wanted to put your hand in the camera so bad.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
leave
I
it a
wasn't paying
little bit
attention.
She's
You can leave it open a little bit.
Yeah, you can leave it open all you want. It's going to be pretty cash. Yeah.
Cash. Wow.
we're gonna
Can't say
we're
all
gonna
cash.
blow the roof off this
Joint.
joint.
Yeah. Sorry. 8:30 on a Friday at MAGFest.
There's my fan club.
The Xander?
We didn't believe Xander had friends, so I'm glad they showed up.
Yeah, they do exist.
We thought they were imaginary.
Shocking. Shocking.
You all are your own friends, and I have them.
What does that mean?
Perfect.
It means I've just exiled myself from this panel.
Jeez. All right. Well, I mean, I guess
It's
It
8:30.
sounds like it's go time.
Yeah,
Get started.
it's 8:30. We'll go ahead and start. This is going to be very, like I mentioned, cash. Again, 8:30 on a Friday. This is we're going to talk about collegiate eSports. We'll talk about eSports. We'll talk about whatever the hell y'all want to talk about, because that's what we can do in this time. We were given an hour to really talk about whatever we wanted to do, and we said we'd talk about collegiate eSports, and of course we will. But we want to make sure that if you all do have questions or things you want to talk about that aren't related to this, or are related to this, or are anything you want to talk about, we will answer any questions and have those conversations, because we're going to have a good time.
Oh, yeah. And I think the biggest problem for me right now is having three people that I know have the power to ask questions.
Yes. Did you plant questions, though, Xander?
No,
No.
They asked me to, and I couldn't think of anything
They
good.
will be organic questions.
Yes.
There we go. Love it.
Love it.
We love awkward. The more awkward, the better things are.
Good.
It's going to be good. So this is where we're at. I mean, obviously, as you can see, it's going to be an exciting panel based on the first title slide here. We spent a lot of time and painstaking hours coming up with the best font and the best background we could for this title. And we named it something, and honestly, I forgot what it was called until about 3 minutes ago when I read this. But we are going to talk about collegiate esports, because that's what we do. And this is called the Quest Beyond Gaming, Unlocking Collegiate Esports. We'll talk about collegiate esports in a lot of different ways, and talk about who we are. And we'll talk about some like case studies almost, about giving you a presentation about what we do and who we are from the institution that we all work at, which is Shenandoah University, which is in Winchester, Virginia. It's about an hour and a half west of here, towards Western Virginia, right near West Virginia. And we've been working at the university for a while now, and we'll talk about all the things that we do, but we'll also talk about collegiate esports in general, because all of us up here have a lot of different experiences in working in collegiate esports and working with students that not only are taking classes and are competing in college, but also things like broadcast production, things like shoutcasting, things like competition. Which is the expertise of everybody to my right here. And a brief introduction of who we are. Alyssa, let's start with you, because you're the first one up there.
Yeah, so hello, I am Alyssa Duran, and I am the coordinator of esports competition at Shenandoah. So I oversee everything competition-wise and events that we run out of our arena. Xander, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, and before I do, you can see here by this slide that Joey he went to a completely different photo shoot than the rest of us.
I didn't want to be around them that
lighting.
day. Yeah. The lighting bounces off my head a little differently than theirs, if you can't tell from the hairstyles. So I didn't want to be around for that
Yeah,
one.
so why did you go to the one with only white light? And
I thought it was a better idea. All right? I was clearly wrong.
Yes, so I'm Xander Merle-Smith. I'm the professor of esports at Shenandoah University. I typically do a lot of the undergrad esports curriculum, and I don't have much else to say about it.
So, and I should have asked this, Alyssa. This is your first MAGFest?
It is my first MAGFest.
We got a newbie. There we go. Not her last,
Yes.
but her first. Xander, how many MAGFests?
This is 2.
2. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My turn?
Yeah.
All right. My name is Sean Kelly. I am the coordinator of esports production for Shenandoah University. Basically, anything social media, live production kind of comes through my area, and that's my bread and butter.
First MAGFest?
Very first MAGFest.
He's posing this question so he can
Yeah.
flaunt his
I can't-
number
I
when he
can't
gets
wait
there.
To when we go to the person to my left and they talk about how many MAGFests they've been to.
Yeah, well, I'm old, so I've been to a lot.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. So my name is Joey Gariziak. I'm the director of esports at Shenandoah University. I'm also a professor of esports, but I really don't teach classes anymore. I leave that to Xander because he's much better than I am at it.
Wow.
But really, I oversee the program. I started it about 5 years ago with Sean as a competitor in it, and he graduated now working in it. But I've been talking about esports at MAGFest for about 7 years now, 7 or 8 years. So I started back, I think, at
Boomer.
MAGFest 12, and this is 20, technically, MAGFest 20?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I started back at MAGFest 12. Talking about esports is very generically, because 8 years ago it was very different than what it looks like now, and nobody really knew what it was going to turn into. I mean, who the hell knows what it turns into another 8 years from now? But that's the exciting part about what esports is. And now I get the chance to work in collegiate esports and work in a program that really values esports at the collegiate level. But talking about it is really what I do. I don't really know much about it, but I talk about it a lot. So I don't really know what that means, but I can talk. In my role, like I said, I oversee the program, which has a lot, and we'll talk about what the program looks like a little bit here right now at Shenandoah University, because colleges are really going all in on esports these days. And what we're seeing in higher education right now is that in the year 2025, we're supposed to see what's called the academic cliff, which is a lot of our traditional learners that we see, like 18, 19-year-olds coming from high school into college. That is going to drop off a lot. And so a lot of colleges are trying to have these esports programs because they want to have big recruitment and retention tools to bring students to their campuses and keep them there to get their degree for all 4 years, or 5 years, or 6 years, or however long it takes to get a degree. And so esports is really growing in college at a really, really fast rate. And it started about 2014 is when people really say esports started in college, because Robert Morris University began offering scholarships for League of Legends. And that's kind of the start to what competition looked like at the collegiate level back in 2014. And it's definitely evolved since then, obviously. I mean, we're 8 years later, 9 years later? Almost it's 2023, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. And so it's evolved a lot. And Shenandoah University, we started about 5 years ago with the competition side of things. And right now, we have competitive teams. And Alyssa is going to talk about the competitive side a lot because she runs our competitive side at Shenandoah. But we also have an academic side where we have courses and programs. We have degrees where you can get in esports management, broadcasting, media and communication, coaching certificates, because Shenandoah, like a lot of schools, are really trying to embrace what current learners really value and are passionate about, which is video games. We all know that. I mean, look at where we are. We're at MAGFest. Obviously, we all love video games. And so colleges are like, well, shit, if people love video games, let's offer some video game courses and offer things that are going to reach them where they are. But beyond that, it's teach them skills that can transfer to other areas so that by the time they graduate, they have these transferable skills they learn through the lens of something they're passionate about, but they can be applied to so many different areas that are so valuable by the time they're looking for careers. No matter what it's in, whether it's in video games or esports or entertainment or business or media and production, doesn't matter what it's in. But video games are being used as a conduit these days, and Shenandoah luckily has gone all in, and the administration is all in, and we all are really lucky to have the positions we are at the university we are, because they see the value that esports has to offer. So what you see up here is kind of a snapshot of what the program is at Shenandoah University. And by the way, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Twitch. We do full broadcast production. Sean does full broadcast production. I don't touch that shit because I will break it. I'm scared right now next to the soundboard because I will mess something up if I get too close to it. But we do full broadcast production for all of our competition. But we also do a lot more than just that with our broadcasting, and Sean will touch on that later on. The competitive side I mentioned, 6 varsity teams is actually, it's a typo. It should be 7 varsity teams. We're now at 1 club team. We do have an eSports arena. You see a little rendering of it there. We'll show you pictures of it a little later on because it's an example of what colleges are doing right now is building these sites that students can come compete in and have community value in and practice in. And it's becoming what we consider an arms race. And it's what traditional sports has been going through for really the past like 20 years at the collegiate level with football, baseball, basketball, more traditional sports where they have really cool locker rooms, really cool arenas, really cool football stadiums. But now esports is getting their chance to have their cool facilities. And colleges are investing millions of dollars in a lot of ways to have these sites for students to come compete at. So we'll talk about the competitive side. We'll talk about the career side. And we were at a panel yesterday that was talking about STEM education, STEM career fields through that lens of esports and video games. And what we do and what we value at Shenandoah University with our career, with our education is getting people to understand where there are career potentials. And so we're going to show the same chart that everybody shows every single presentation and talk about careers in esports later on in this. So
The
get ready for
font
that.
is smaller than the title page.
Yeah, so the font, very, very small. Sorry ahead of time. So where are we going here? There's our stock photo of a road and mountains to talk about the path that we're going to journey on today together. But more importantly than just the path we're going to journey on, if you have questions, that's what we want to hear. If you all have things that you want to talk about, please let us know. You can stop me mid-sentence. These guys do all the time to tell me I'm an idiot and we want to talk about something different. That is just fine. And I'm going to stop talking here in just a few slides and let them do it because they know way more than me about all this stuff. But we want to make sure we're answering any questions you all might have about collegiate esports because it is evolving extremely quickly. And we've got a pulse on a lot of different programs around the country and the way that policy is being written and the way that students are being accustomed to what competition looks like, but also beyond competition, what it looks like. So we'll talk about competition, academics. We'll talk about this phrase of beyond gaming, more than just playing video games, the different facilities out there, careers in and through esports, but then how to get involved. Does anybody here work at a high school? Any high school educators? There we go. I love talking to high school people that work in the high school space because the collegiate space is getting more galvanized and we're figuring out the high school space is the freaking Wild West right now. It is all over the place. People are trying to figure out what we're doing in high school for competition, for education, for what we can offer to students to create value for them, but also to show them what that pathway to college looks like. So we'll talk about that as well. But we're going to start with this one. How in the world do you spell esports, right? Because I've seen this a couple of times, even at this convention this year, with dashes, with capital S's. There's no, I don't want to say there's a wrong way to spell esports.
There is.
Okay, they'll say there's a wrong way. I was looking, yeah.
There's 2, you made this slide, there's 2 X's right there.
That means they're wrong.
You can see that those are the wrong ones.
The right way is all lowercase, or that capital E is the beginning of a sentence or a proper noun. The Associated Press actually came out and said this is the way that esports should be spelled. So no more big S's, no more dashes. This is it. This is the way it's going to be. That's what they said. And so Xander, in classes, do you teach? Because Xander's, again, he's an instructor of esports, teaches classes. Do you teach students about this?
Yes, of course.
Why?
Because I think that the way that the industry is perceived and represented, even through text, normalizing a specific way to put that can change the way that people ultimately see it over the course of its expansion as an industry. So if it's all normalized, then people will go, oh, okay, yeah, esports, similar to sports. You're not going to capitalize I don't know, there's no dashes in sports. That's a bad example, but...
How about email?
I would say you started this with email.
Email.
Email had the dash originally, and then they moved towards the
Back in the
same
AOL
esports.
days with the discs.
Yeah, Joey was there.
I was
not
there. I was absolutely. I
not
was
there.
collecting those free discs. Oh, absolutely. No doubt, yeah, but not anymore. Yeah, the e-mail, not really there anymore, okay? So yeah, it is important because we want to make sure we're on the same kind of level playing field, and it's important that students are growing up kind of with that. Ooh, before I show that. Yeah. So when we talk about collegiate competition, has anybody heard of NACE? Okay, a few people heard of NACE. How about Collegiate Star League? A couple of people there. NECC, ECAC, eFuse, any of these. So these are all different collegiate competitions, right? Have you heard of the NCAA? There we go. Now we're on it. So the NCAA, obviously, it's like a governing body for traditional sports: baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, swimming, whatever. Georgia's playing national championship on Monday. Go Dogs! And so the NCAA has been governing traditional sports for 150 years in college. The NCAA said we aren't touching video games and esports. They said it won't because they can't control the intellectual property. Right, that is the biggest thing for the NCAA. They can't guarantee that they can run League of Legends competitions for the next 5 years because Riot owns those rights. Right, and the NCAA does not own those rights. So the NCAA has said we're not touching it. So there's a need for other governing bodies to come out and say, all right, we will help set up competition. We will help provide competition for colleges and universities for these students. And so NACE and the NACE Star League has become one of the most prominent ones that is out there right now. And I have stats up here. You probably can't read them because they're really small. I can kind of read them, but my eyes are really bad. That shows the stats from last academic year for how many teams competed, how many students competed, what games were the most popular, and a couple of other things. The most popular game, you got it, Xander? You help me out here?
Rocket League.
The most popular game is what, Alyssa?
Rocket League.
Rocket League was the most popular game last academic year for colleges and universities. Yeah, your eyes aren't that bad. But
Text is pretty small.
hopefully you can see 693 different schools around the country. This is colleges and universities, 693. In the NCAA, there are about 1,300 schools. And so take that with a grain of salt. We're not quite the NCAA numbers when it comes to college competitions. But still, almost 700 schools are now competing in esports at the higher education level, which is huge. It's the highest it's ever been. It continues to grow. 423 varsity programs. And varsity kind of has a nebulous term, and Alyssa's going to talk about that term a little bit in her slides. A lot of total matches, and look at that last number right there, scholarship dollars awarded. And we'll talk about scholarships in here because, especially for high school students, it's looking at where are there scholarship opportunities with esports. And there are a lot. Yes, sir?
Who's paying to organize the leagues?
It's a joint venture between NACE, National Association of Collegiate Esports, and Playfly. Playfly is a multimedia company where they sell multimedia rights to a lot of outside organizing bodies in traditional sports as well as esports. So right now, those scholarship dollars are provided by Playfly Esports.
And how do they make money? Is it
Selling advertising. Yep. So they sell advertising, and Sean will talk about the broadcasting side a little bit as well, because obviously that broadcasting side with Twitch and YouTube is massive right now, and Playfly has gone all in on the multimedia rights, kind of like CSMG, College Sport Management Group, as well as Learfield, has recently gone all in, but they're kind of backing down a little bit right now. But Playfly has really gone all in selling multimedia rights to these colleges and universities and working with advertisers to get those dollars up. So they're the ones providing those scholarship dollars right now. But there's about $16 million right now provided by different schools, like universities and colleges, for students to come to campus on either a full ride scholarship or a partial scholarship to compete in games like Rocket League, League of Legends, Overwatch. Those are the three most popular. Valorant is the fastest growing one right now. But we'll talk about those a little bit more. Some other numbers right here, just to kind of put it in perspective. With the NACE Star League, 13,000 men and women, and that's a huge thing, by the way, right there. Men and women, not just men playing, it's men and women. It is co-ed. It's one of the few co-ed sports, and I do say esports is a sport, one of the few co-ed sports at the higher education level where men and women are competing on the same teams at the same time. So few activities actually do that. Mm-hmm. You good there?
I'm good.
You made a big noise that made me nervous.
I made a whoopsie.
But obviously Twitch is a big thing, and broadcasting things on Twitch as much as possible is really, really important to get the point across. But it kind of puts it in perspective. You look at these other traditional sports like golf, like lacrosse, like tennis, football, hockey, wrestling. You see the number of people participating right now, and this is really about year 5 or 6 for NACE, for competing. And like I said, NCAA, been around for about 150 years. NACE, been around for 6 years, right? And you see how many people are already competing in it. So lots and lots of room for growth, lots and lots of room for the number of eyes that are on there and the impressions. But more look at the competition. Alyssa, I'm going to throw this one to you because Alyssa is our coordinator of competition at the university. So she knows everything that's going on for competition, and I really know nothing. That's why I hired her. So Alyssa, I'll let you take this one over.
Yes, so looking at competition in collegiate esports, first we kind of differentiate programs by whether they are a varsity program or at a club level. And as we said before, that can be a little bit difficult to define. But usually a varsity program is a program that is backed by the school in some way. Sometimes that is providing staff of some sort or somebody to oversee the program. Usually it involves having some sort of space for players to come practice and compete. And different universities will offer scholarships as well to their players. So that's a little bit of a way to differentiate between those two. A club level esports team is usually student-led. Maybe some student staff will oversee it, but it's usually that student-led versus staff-led that really changes those two programs. And so a question I get a lot are, what kind of games do you offer? And we've touched a little bit on that. 4 of the most common games that we see right now are Valorant, Rocket League, League, and Overwatch. I think the 2 after that that are most common are Call of Duty and Smash. Yeah, shout out Smash. But a question I get is like, who decides like what games are offered? And the biggest defining factor is student interest. We are always focused on students and what they want to be involved in, what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. So student interest really leads that decision, because I can say all day that we're going to have a Dota team or a CS team. If we don't have students to fill those roles, we're not going to have a team. So our university offers 7 titles. All those listed up there we offer. We also have Apex. And we have full rosters for each of those. Looking at our competition structure, so looking at the games offered, so we look at student interest, and then we also look at the quality of competition that is offered. So organizations like the NACE Star League is amazing for colleges because they know that they can sign up for the NACE Star League, and every week throughout the semester, their teams are going to have a place to compete against another college. So there's a lot of community tournaments and different things that people put on, but sometimes they're not always of the highest quality, or they're not always consistent. So a lot of times varsity programs who are investing all this money and this time into these programs want quality competition. So most college programs will sign up for a couple different leagues based on their games. So we participate in the NACE Star League, and then we also compete in the Mid-Atlantic eSports Conference, which is just a local eSports league. So each week, based on the team, our students will have 1 to 2 game days, and then maybe 3 to 4 practice days, depending on the student schedules. So they know every week they'll have a practice schedule, and they'll prepare for their games, and then review the next week. And then another question is, why do we compete? So that's a pretty loaded question, and every student is probably going to answer that differently. Some of them are going to say, oh, we want to win, we want to go for the prize pools, we want to go for, the flashy stuff. But what I have found competing and working in collegiate esports is a lot of times students look for their community in college. They'll say that their college teams, those are their best friends. Those are the people they reach out to and remember when they graduate. We really try to foster a community on our campus, and collegiate teams are an excellent way for students to get involved and have a memorable college experience.
And I should have said that Alyssa was a varsity player at St. Ambrose College in Overwatch when she was competing there, and just graduated last December.
December, yep.
And we hired her last year to run our competition. Has been absolutely excellent. Sean is also a former varsity player playing Overwatch again. And did you play Rocket League at all?
Valorant.
You played Valorant, whatever. He played soccer too at the university. He came in saying he could play Rocket League, but he was terrible at it. But he's at least decent at Widow and Overwatch.
Come on now.
Decent. Xander was never a varsity player at Virginia Tech.
That didn't exist when I
Exactly, right? It didn't exist. He's kind of old, like me. I played Halo at University of Georgia, kind of. Original Halo, the good Halo, CE, nothing else. And so we do have some playing background up here, but especially Sean and Alyssa competed on these varsity teams when they were in college. And both are very young, 22, 23 as of Saturday, you will be. As of tomorrow, you'll be 23. Yeah, there he goes. Oh, you're getting close. Yeah. And so they come fresh out of a program that was playing at a very high level. I should say we don't offer scholarships at Shenandoah University. And so as Alyssa's talking about all the competition and all the playing for prize money, yes, there's prize money out there. For about 8 schools,
Yep.
right? That's about the amount of colleges that actually win prize, because they are offering full ride scholarships for former pro players to come play on their college teams. It's really damn hard to compete against former pro players that are on full ride scholarships at a school that offers zeros of dollars in scholarships. But we're good. We're good. We finished 4th in the country, maybe 3rd. We didn't have a 3rd place match for Smash Brothers this year. And so we're really good there. We're good in a couple other games, right, Alyssa?
Call of Duty, shout out to our Call of Duty team. We did very well this year.
Okay. Overwatch, we're okay. League of Legends needs some work. So, I mean, it's just like any college program. Some sports are really good, some sports are not so good, but it fluctuates, right? And so the collegiate level is just, it's crazy to kind of work in right now because there's just one competition. It's the NACE Star League. It's not like you divide it up like the NCAA does, where there's all the schools that offer full ride scholarships for their sport, some that offer partial scholarships, some that offer no scholarships. Shenandoah University is a Division III in the NCAA school. We offer no scholarships for any traditional sport. So we didn't want to do it for esports either because we wanted to create a level playing field with all of our traditional athletes, with all our esports athletes. These schools offering scholarships, it's tough. It's really, really tough to compete against them. So at some point, NACE has to evolve. I'm involved I'm the chair of the board of directors right now for NACE. I'm trying to get them to change that a little bit, but it's really hard to compete. Yes, sir.
So schools that are offering scholarships, are they the same FCS level, or are there like a step above, like in Division II?
No, we're all kind of lumped in together in one competition for our schools that offer scholarships. So unfortunately, we have to compete against those schools. The biggest schools right now for competition, the kind of the best schools, Northwood is one of the best schools in the country for a number of games. Harrisburg University of Science and Technology, Maryville University, St. Clair University, Boise State. Those are some of the biggest and best schools that offer scholarships and in competition right now. And so we play against them. And it's really tough to compete against them. Shenandoah University. Who in here, before this panel, before I said it the first time, had heard of Shenandoah University? Okay, well, that's actually pretty good.
Those three don't count.
Okay, so we have 2 or 3 others. And so Shenandoah University doesn't have a lot of brand recognition like a Boise State might have. And these bigger schools like a Boise State, a Ohio State, a Penn State, schools like that, they're not offering scholarships yet, but they're about to.
I thought Boise was an FBS school.
Boise is an FBS school. Yeah, and so they offer scholarships, obviously scholarships for football at the FBS level, football bowl subdivision. Same thing with like basketball and their other sports, but they offer scholarships for esports as well, and in a lot of cases full ride scholarships for esports. And so they're very, very good. Boise State is seen as really the mecca for esports. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Boise State.
Yeah. Besides Shenandoah. Yeah.
Besides Shenandoah, of course.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But they've got a lot of resources behind it. So it is tough, but we do compete against them in a lot of our games. Alyssa mentioned the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference. So NACE is nationwide, competing in schools across the country and Canada. Canada is a different country. But also in the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference is just DC, Maryland, and Virginia schools. And right now, George Mason and Bryant and Stratton are probably the 2 most competitive schools with us that we compete with. Bryant and Stratton really, really good at Overwatch.
Yes, very good.
George Mason is really good kind of across the board in a number of different games. But we're right there about third or fourth, second in a lot of games as well. So you're seeing a lot of schools. There's about 16 schools in the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference, and it's cool because you can play in person. You can have those LAN competitions, and if you all play Smash Brothers, you know that Smash in LAN is way better than Smash online. Online Smash is not fun. It sucks. The players hate it. But with the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference, we can get in person and play, and that's where esports needs to go, especially post-pandemic. Knock on wood-ish, sorry if that was loud, that we can actually get in person a lot more. And that's where high schools need to be as well. We need to be able to travel a lot more. And we've been fortunate that we've hosted the Virginia State High School Championships the last couple of years for high schools in Virginia to come to Shenandoah University to our arena, which you see a picture of right there, and we'll show you a couple more pictures, that we have these high schools come to our campus and they're able to compete in person, for a lot of them, the first time ever. Which is really, really cool to see kind of that eye-opening experience, to let them have that chance to not just get online, play a game, log out, say GG's in the chat, and go away, right? They can actually get up, shake hands with somebody, give them a fist bump, and actually talk to them and have that really cool experience together. So that's really important when it comes to competition. It's not just about winning money. A lot of schools do focus on that. That is not what Shenandoah University is about. That is not what esports in college should be focused on. Some schools want to focus on it, and that's great. That's really cool. They want to be the best programs in the country. Good for them. But there are 99% of the other schools are going to focus on community building, focus on the experience, and focus on getting these students an education and giving them a chance to do something they love to do, they didn't otherwise have that chance to do. And that's what esports in college really is. It's something that gives them a chance to do something they love to do, they're passionate about, while getting an education. It's not about winning money. It's not about going pro, believe me. These students are not going pro from college. In fact, pro teams, again, like I said, they're going from pros to college. It's the opposite of what we see in traditional sports. So they're going to college first and then going pro. Yes?
Are most people that are in the competitions also doing esports related degrees or not?
Yeah, the degree part we're going to talk about right on the next slide, actually, because esports degrees are growing incredibly. And so at our school, it's about 37% of our students on our varsity teams are in our esports degree program. So it's a high number, but it's not even half. And I thought it'd be higher than that. Kind of like sport management, where sport management was, for the first 40 years, 50 years when it started in the 70s. But esports is we're seeing some overlap for sure, but not as much as I thought. Speaking of academics,
Wow.
segue, Xander, take over.
Thank you so much. So talking a little bit about academics with esports, I'm going to paint it through the lens of my own experience and what we do over at Shenandoah University. So a lot of what we do is preparing students and actually preparing the parents for the expectation of the fact that they're not necessarily, if they're going to be majoring in esports, they're not just going to be gaming all the time and being on those varsity teams. We're trying to separate the two, combining them where it's relevant, but then separating the two in, okay, you've got your competitors and the people that want to compete at a varsity level or a club level, and then if you're going to be in the academic program, you're going to be learning about the industry. Similarly to sport management, because we relay those we kind of group those together very similarly, because the industries look very similar in how they're approached, at least through our approach to the industry, which is preparing students for managing events, broadcast production, all of the key elements that go into what makes a great sports event. We try to do the same thing in preparing students to make a great esports event. And a lot of that can be through the academics and classes that we teach, through some of the experiential learning that we try and put the students in front of, getting them to various events and working some major events, even small events, because we do have an event management class that we offer every single semester where they're getting hands-on experience to run even from a very small scale, even if it's something just like a 1v1 Smash tournament with 8 people that show up, to we just this past December ran the Mid-Atlantic Esports Conference finals, from the semifinals on, for 4 different titles. It was just the single class of about 20 students that ran this pretty major tournament with a bunch of visiting schools that came through to get that repetition, to get that experience of running their own event and running into the hurdles of what they are going to be running into in the industry if they decide to go that route. I always say to my students, if you're going to be running an event, you can run a small event, you can run a big event. You're going to run into the same problems. They just get bigger the bigger the event, right? So it's really great to have them have that experience when it's only one person complaining to them, not an entire bracket of people running into that same issue with the Battlefy messing up or something like that, right? So
and we see the same problems at these small events. We see the big ones, and that's usually teams not showing up. Happens all the time in esports, or the game's lasting too freaking long, especially League of Legends. I hate it. I'm sorry, League of Legends players. It's a pain to run League of Legends tournaments. Valorant's not much better, thanks Riot. But it's a nightmare to try to run these games. They take so long, and it's hard to predict when they're going to end. You just don't know when they're going to end. But Xander did a great job leading that class with that project this year.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so the academic side is really cool. And it's like you can major in esports now. Like, who thought that was going to be possible years ago? Like, that was never a thought. You get a degree in esports now. Just like sport management. That's my background. My background's in sport management. And that started in 1971 at Ohio University. And now what we're seeing is esports popping up, and major schools are looking for these, where more and more classes are being offered. But Xander, what in the hell does an esports class look like? Playing video games?
No.
Good.
Well, okay, so
I hope
one
not.
class, one class they did, but that was an example to show them all the key elements of what can be an esports event, right?
Yep.
And it just was, you've got your players, your spectators, your game, a prize pool, stakes are important, and just utilizing all of the very base things to show them that they could achieve something like an esports event, having just 4 people playing in a room for first place, right? So
Right. Yeah.
so they did that one time.
Yeah. So
I didn't want to tell you though.
You do play okay, that's fine. You do play some video games, but it's to understand it. And the biggest thing is not selling students on an esports degree. Like Xander said, it's selling the parents on what an esports degree is. They're like, an esports degree? I'm sending my son or my daughter to college to play video games, and they're going to give them this degree that doesn't mean anything.
Without a scholarship.
Without a scholarship. What am I doing? And so talking to them is really tough. But the biggest thing you can do is always show them. You show them what an esports event actually looks like. You show them the work that goes in behind the scenes. You put it in ways and context that makes sense to them. And a lot of times that's relating it to traditional sports. And so it starts to make sense to them. And then they understand the value that an esports education can have. And that it really is, in a lot of ways, business. There's a lot of business concepts, a lot of multimedia concepts, a lot of engineering concepts, a lot of tech concepts. So it really does go far. And we're starting to see more and more programs pop up. And I know, yes, that map is probably really small. You probably can't read any of the words on that slide. Basically, what it says is that most programs out there are bachelor's degree programs. There are master's degree programs. There are certificates at the undergrad, at the grad level. And in North America, we're starting to see more and more of these programs pop up. We got a little map down on the bottom right. It's really blurry and small, so you can't read any of it. It's great. A lot of value to it right now. But what we're seeing is that more and more schools are starting to pop up with either minors or concentrations or certificates in esports in some capacity. Most of them around esports business. That's where we're seeing most of it. UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, is about gambling, esports gambling. Shocker. But a lot of other ones, you're seeing the business side or the broadcast production, which Sean will talk about here in a second, is a big area and emphasis. But now we're starting to see like health and wellness around esports and gaming. That is a really hot area. We're seeing research in, we're seeing a lot of classes in, is understanding what those long-term implications are for long periods of gaming and how to optimize performance when it comes to gamers. Because with it being a billion-dollar industry, these teams like Cloud9, Team Liquid, and so on want to make sure that they're getting the most out of their players and keep them healthy for as long as possible, to keep them at that highest level possible for as long as they can, to make as much money as they can. It's a business. But there are more and more degree programs. Right now it's about 95, well actually this is about a year and a half ago we got this data, about 95 different programs in the world that offered some kind of educational program. Right now it's closer to about 130 to 140. But in the next 3 to 5 years, we think it'll be closer to about 300 to 400 different schools offer some kind of academic program around esports and gaming. And so it's really exciting to kind of see where this is and where it started and where it's going to go. And definitely North America is ahead of the game. Europe has a lot of this too, and so does Asia, shocking. But Asia has a lot of these programs, especially in South Korea and in China. A lot of these kind of programs that are popping up to teach what the esports ecosystem is like and how to find careers in it. But something Xander talked about earlier is the experiential learning. You know, esports degrees, cool. But what the hell does that mean to have an esports degree? You sit in a class and you talk about esports and you talk about theory, great. Is that going to help you get a job? Not really. What's going to help you get a job is actually being in the field, right? An esports degree is not the way to get a job in esports. Working in esports while in school is the way to get a job in esports. Having the actual skills necessary about how to run events and how to network, that's how you get the job. So a lot of our education, and Sean can attest to this because I've put him through the ringer, is not only going on these trips, but leading these trips about experiential learning. So Alyssa's only been hired for 6 months, and she's been on like 3 or 4 different trips.
Yep, 3 trips. So
Xander's
far.
been hired for 6 months. Is that right?
Do I get more?
No, you're done. That's it, you're out. But he's been on some of these trips as well. Sean's been hired. By the way, all of them are new, if you can't tell. 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. They all started this summer working in this program, and they've all led trips already for our students because that is where the real value is for esports education. It's not just about the classroom. Sorry, Xander. It's about the classroom and the field experience and getting your hands-on learning. Alyssa, I'm going to start with you. What was your favorite trip that you led, and what were some of those experiences like?
My favorite trip, we went to the Halo Championship Series in Seattle. So it was actually like their world championship. And I took, I believe it was 5 students. We flew out to Seattle and we got to work with eSports Engine. So they're a company that they helped run a lot of the production and day of logistics for the series. And so we had students working check-in and working just odd jobs here and there. So they were really just there as hands ready to help wherever needed. But what these students left with, they were able to see a huge event. So they're in these classes learning about event management and what that looks like. But we're running it out of our arena with 30 PCs. They go to these events and see hundreds and hundreds of people. They get to see behind the stage, see what a full-blown production looks like. And they also get to see or meet these people that are running these events. And so it's a great networking opportunity. We've had students go to these events and later on work different events with them and end up getting some sort of consistent job. So we have a good connection with our students as with eSports Engine. He goes out and helps different events. So bringing these students out and seeing their excitement to see these big events is just so exciting for them. And it gives them a practical application to these things that they're learning in their classes. So that was definitely my favorite.
You know where this is going, Xander.
My favorite was going to visit Team Liquid in Utrecht. That was great. We got to see their entire facilities.
Where is Utrecht, Xander?
It's in the Netherlands.
There you go.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, that I just realized, yeah. Yeah, it's in the Netherlands.
Yeah. So we took our students to the Netherlands back in October to go to Team Liquid's facility, go to Utrecht, meet their professional team and administrators out there. Really, really cool experience. So definitely eye-opening. Sean?
So my trip, favorite trip similar to Alyssa is probably when I led students to Orlando to do an HCS event. As Joey said, we're all new hires, but I've been in the program for 5 years as a student. So getting the opportunity to lead a trip from the admin side instead of being a student on a trip was amazing, honestly. And being able to get that experience and be able to tell the experience from both sides within the same program, I think is awesome. So that's easily my favorite.
That's true. You do have a unique perspective because you were somebody that went on some of these trips and got to get a lot of benefit from them. If you couldn't tell, we have a great relationship with folks like eSports Engine where they allow us to insert our students into a bunch of their events and give them a lot of that experiential learning experience. Never mind.
Good talk.
Never mind.
Not only that, if Xander would turn his hat around,
Oh.
There we go. So there's
Let's talk about this later.
Yeah, besides eSports Engine, we work with other companies like a company Stay Plugged In, which Xander worked at for a year. So Xander got his master's degree, his MBA at Shenandoah University with a concentration in eSports management. Worked at a company called Stay Plugged In for a year and then came back, thankfully, to teach in our program. So Xander, you want to talk about who they are and what you did there?
Yeah, so Stay Plugged In and another company, eSports Tower. If you're looking for scholarship opportunities for esports for high school students, contacting and creating an account on one of these platforms, eSports Tower or Stay Plugged In, they do an incredible job hosting events, getting college recruiters and scouts in front of a lot of these high school competitions and getting players the chance to compete in front of a lot of these great college connections. And they'll just host big lands and invite a bunch of colleges, have them come and just get to meet students and give them the opportunities that a lot of traditional sports athletes get at, say, combines and things like that. We give that, or I used to give those opportunities at like Stay Plugged In to esports competitors as well. I was trying to decide if I want to say students or competitors or athletes.
Student athletes. That's what we call them for traditional sports, right? Or athlete students sometimes. So yeah, experiential learning, huge. We want to take our students, and a lot of, and I know we're talking about Shenandoah University a lot and our students, what we do, but that's who we are. But a lot of schools are doing the same stuff, right? They want to provide the best experience possible. And if you want to get a job in esports and you want to tell students how to get a job in esports, it's not just going to class and getting a degree. It's getting out in the field. It's having your business card on you at all times. Sean, you got them? Something I tell my students every day is have a business card on you at all times. You never know when you need to give that out. There you go. So you can learn that as part of the program, is that you want to have a business card.
You don't have yours.
I have one from like 10 years ago that's not related to Shenandoah at all.
Perfect. Alyssa?
It's in my purse.
It's in your purse? I do have mine. Usually I run out of mine, but I do have mine. Yeah. So it's something that we do tell our students because networking is huge. Right? It's that old adage. It's not about what you know. A lot of times it's who you know. Right? So we want to make sure they're making those connections while going out and traveling around as much as we can. But we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about broadcasting a lot because this is not just an area that is good for education and is good for students to get experience in because there's potential jobs. From my standpoint, my perspective as running the program, this generates revenue for us. It makes money for our program because our budget is really low. We have, I'll tell you, I don't care. We have $10,000. We have a $10,000 budget to run our program for a yearly basis, right? And for a lot of schools, that's a lot of money. For most schools, that's like no money, right? There's a report that just came out from the eSports Foundry, and most schools are somewhere, I think 31% of schools are $25,000 or below for the yearly operating budget. There are some schools, I don't know, Alyssa, you looked at it pretty recently. Some schools are $500,000 plus for the yearly operating budget. Right. Traditional sports, I mean, the athletic department at University of Texas is like $183 million a year, something stupid like that, maybe 200-something million a year. So that's another level, right? We're not talking about that level right now. But $10,000 a year is not a whole hell of a lot of money. But with our broadcast production, with what Sean does in our program and Xander does a lot of times in our casting, we actually generate revenue that provides us 4 or 5 times that yearly operating budget through bringing in money with working with people like eSports Tower, from running events, from being on Twitch. We are generating revenue, and some schools are like, oh, crap, we better get on this because it's a revenue-generating opportunity that wasn't otherwise there. But Sean, I'll shut up and let you talk about.
Let him say these things.
I like to talk. I'm an old professor.
Just let him talk. It's fine. So the broadcast production side, like I've said a couple times, I've been around for a while with this program. This is a venture that we started while I was still a student. And to be transparent, it's a venture that we jumped into because of the pandemic. We came back that year of 2020 while we still had class, but the NCAA wasn't competing. And we felt like there was a gap to fill where esports was still competing and our soccer team, our baseball team, all of them weren't competing that year. So that's kind of the little bit of an origin as to why this is such an emphasis for us. We are completely student operated, aside from me now this semester, where we operate with a team of 6 to 10 students that come in either on a volunteer basis or on a student employment basis, and operate completely by themselves and how they want to run the show. So we do shows just about 4 times a week, and of course projects on the weekend when we're doing VHSL, Mid-Atlantic eSport Conference Championships, all these things that are 10, 12-hour shows, because that's what eSports is. It's weekends, it's long days, it's long nights. So to give you a quick rundown, we run with about a 4-person team in the behind-the-scenes side. So we'll do a director, a replay tech, a observer, and a producer, and then usually 2 to 3 people on the desk. Looking at my friend on my right, Xander was one of the first casters that I worked with. So me and Xander have been involved for a while, working together, pushing each other, depending on whether it was on camera or off camera. And as Joey said, this is a revenue area for us, and that's not just for us or Collegiate. That is very much so where most of esports makes their money. It's sponsorships, it's activations, and it's on-screen and social media talent. Yeah.
Are most sports revenue generating? Like I know there was a side with like golf and lacrosse. Like, do they make money for colleges, or is it mostly just like basketball?
There's 2. You nailed them. There's 2 revenue-generating sports in college. It's football and men's basketball. Right? Those are the only 2 sports in college that actually generate revenue. So by having Sean and generate revenue through esports is huge, because you don't see that very often.
So is the expectation that esports, like if it's well run, that esports could be like revenue generating for all these colleges, like the 400 programs that?
It can. I don't know if that's necessarily something that is an expectation, because you kind of see what college, I mean, most sports like, swimming, diving, lacrosse, they're not generating, they're losing tons of money every year, and the university sees it as an expense, because they're getting students there, and you get student tuition dollars. That's a lot of money, and so esports. I don't think the expectation will be there that esports has to generate revenue, but I think it has to bring students in that wouldn't have otherwise come to that institution, and so that's the revenue you're bringing in. It's not the direct revenue that we're able to get necessarily, because we do have that really high level, professional level stuff. I mean, working with vMix and some of the stuff that Sean does is professional level. I mean, broadcasting to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, it's huge. And so it's right now the outlier. At some point, it will become more normalized, but I don't know if it will ever become an expectation that you have to do it.
For my input, I think that the expectation is more the fact that an esport program might be able to sustain themselves rather than be a revenue generator. And what I mean by that is we can bring in sponsorships and different projects that can get paid for, other things, and allow the program to kind of stand on their own, whether it's expenses for travel or other things. It allows it to be paid by itself rather than an academic program, or, as Joey said, some of the sport programs that need help from other activities. And to touch on that, like Joey said, we do shows contracted out, or a lot of these things with VHSL and MAEC. A lot of the draw is because we can be a standalone, not only TOing and event management, but also a full broadcast production to come along with it, so that they have those generating stats and revenue on their side, but also have that footprint of doing shows and being able to see what gets pulled in and all that.
We've got 10 minutes left. We just saw the lovely sign. And it's 9:21. So we're going to run through these last couple of slides pretty quick, but I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of different facilities. These are kind of cool, right? Because you're seeing all these different sites that are popping up, and you've seen a couple of pictures, like what you see right here. Sean, what are we looking at right here in this picture, in these pictures?
Yeah, so on our left is student Nikita and a GA Alexander, some of the main casters for us during an event, actually on camera. And on the right would be another student leader, Ian, who runs most of our director. And that program that you see is called vMix. If any of you have worked with OBS, it's OBS on crack. It allows you to do a ton of things for a production rather than a personal stream, is the best way to put it.
Cool. And we're going to give you a couple of examples of what we see up here. And yeah, you might see somebody familiar in that picture right there. Xander, what are you doing in that picture?
That's shoutcasting.
Good.
Actually, that is posing for a picture to make it look like I'm shoutcasting.
That is much more accurate. Staging photos. Do that all the time. So what you see here, this is our arena on campus. This is not a big site. I mean, this room is bigger than our facility on campus. Yep. It's 1,571 square feet, approximately. With our broadcast production area, you're getting close to 2,000 square feet. So it's not a big space, but you don't need a massive space. That's what's cool about eSports. It's like, you don't need a basketball court that has certain dimensions. You don't need a football field that has certain dimensions. Esports is like, all right, make it what you want and make it really cool looking so people will come and hang out and do things in it. And so we have a space that's really cool and functional, and then we put some really cheap LED lights and it makes it look really neat. And that's what students want, is that it looks neat. RGBs for the win. And so that's our space right there, but we run all of our competitions, our practices out of it. We've been lucky that we've commandeered other spaces on campus because faculty weren't using them, so I just kind of took them over, and so we put PCs in them. It is a garage.
That is a garage.
Great
Yes,
eye.
you can make anything into an esports facility. This is an old muster station for soldiers from the National Guard for World War II, actually. And this was where a lot of vehicles were parked, and there are drains still in the floor, which some of those chairs, they're on wheels. They roll towards those drains sometimes. So it's not exactly the best at times. But no, this is our space. We're really happy to be in this space. We love it. But we always complain about it because that's what we do. But it's got HVAC, it's got, it's got fiber, so it's really good. There's no Wi-Fi. I mean, there's Wi-Fi in there, but all of our computers are hardwired because you got to have hardwire for them. But it's a really cool space. It's the garage doors do open, so it's kind of cool to be able to open those garage doors on a really nice day and feel like you're gaming outside, because that's a really weird experience that gamers don't have a lot. They get to go touch grass. And so that's the facility we have right now. It's been open for about 2.5 years. And like I said, we're proud of it, but
6 minutes.
okay, I talk so much. Thank you. So this is St. Clair College. St. Clair College in Canada is a 2-year institution. They actually just opened this facility. It is finally open. It says January 2022. Thanks pandemic, thanks supply chain. It was actually January 23 when it opened officially. But St. Clair has a huge facility there. They're going all in their business school and offering not just classes, but also competition. They want to host a lot of events. So you see that it has a lot of different classrooms, soundproof streaming rooms, lounges, console stations, gaming stations, computers, and space for an audience. So St. Clair definitely going all in, as well as another example of facilities. Butler University opened up in the fall of 2022. Theirs is a multi-use facility that's not just for esports competition, but also to host professional esports businesses to engage and interact with their students on a daily basis. So they wanted kind of a cool kind of lounge bar feel to go with the practice area. So while it's not that big flash that you'd see for like a spectator audience, you do get a lot of multi-use facilities and open collaboration areas to engage with business leaders on a consistent basis. So these are 3 different examples of the arms races that are going out there, of different venues out there on college sites. Maryville University is going to have a 3,000 seat esports arena as well, opening hopefully in the next 5 years, they say. But we'll see how long that actually takes to open up. But it will be the largest esports collegiate facility to date when it does open. So schools are definitely seeing what the advantage is to having these facilities and really going all in and spending a lot of money on these different facilities. Want to get to the career slide?
Yes.
Do it.
Everybody pull out your magnifying glass.
There we go.
I wasn't kidding.
It hurts. Xander, what do we got here?
I fully encourage you to come up and take a picture if you want to zoom in even further. But this is a kind of a graph of various esports related professions and the different branches that we encourage people to kind of look through when they're starting to get interested into our program and maybe something that we can offer is, we talked about how a lot of different skills are transferable between industries. And so what we try and do is find their major interest and then direct them and give them the skills they can to potentially utilize one of the major groupings here, but then find some way into an esports realm, and if not, they already have the skills that they learned from that particular path that we set them on to be able to find work in some sort of related field.
Good. Yeah. No, it's a cool chart that a lot of people do use. I know it's really hard to read, I apologize, but do take a picture. It's widely used. It needs to be updated probably, but that's what esports is. It needs to be updated probably on an hourly basis. Because it changes so freaking quick. Esports moves at one speed. Education moves at a much different speed. Very, very slow. But it's something that's really exciting, and it does just kind of give a picture, like Xander said, of what those options are. It's not just being a pro gamer. Students have to get that out of their mind. It's like saying, hey, I'm going to be a pro football player. Yeah, you might be, but the chances of going pro in football are minuscule. Just like going pro in esports is minuscule. And even more so, making a career out of being a professional is extremely difficult in esports, just like any traditional sport. So we let students know that there's a lot of opportunities, not just students, but parents also. So many different opportunities to get involved in the esports and gaming industry besides just playing video games. And the last thing we want to say is, get involved. Like, if you want to be involved in esports, be involved. At the high school, at the collegiate level, there's so many different ways that you can just volunteer time. I hate the word volunteer because it's a lot of work for literally zeros of dollars because of volunteer means. But that's how you get started. That's how you get started. And it's a project of passion a lot of times. I mean, that's how we all started. You know, we put in the work, we put in the hours, whether it was, I thought I was going to roll off. Whether it was competing, whether it was being in the broadcast
Give the people
room.
what they want.
Oh, there it goes. Yes, you made it.
Like a kitty cat.
But getting involved and just being around the thing that you love to do and being around students that are passionate about it, that's what's important, because whether it's high school, whether it's middle school, whether it's college and universities, esports just needs people that are passionate about what they do. They need to be passionate about student education, and providing students an opportunity they want to have to give them something better than just playing video games. Our tagline at Shenandoah University is what?
Beyond gaming.
There you go.
Beyond gaming.
Beyond gaming. Because there's so much more to esports and gaming than esports and gaming.
Yep.
Right? And it's getting people to understand what that is, whether it's students or parents. And getting involved is the best thing you can do. Just be around, be present is the biggest piece of advice. And be around Danny DeVito too. That always helps.
Never hurts.
Never hurts, right? Any last parting words? I've talked way too much. Alyssa, we'll go down the line. Any last parting words? I know.
Well, thank you guys for coming out. And if you have any questions, we'll be around and are very happy to answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, similarly, we encourage getting involved. Again, the volunteering time thing totally sucks, but it honestly is. But if you are interested in further things and want to talk with us a little bit more, we're more than happy to help. And boy, we're right on the line.
It's 9:30 on a Friday, and y'all are here. So I'm going to
Yeah.
give you all a round of applause
Yeah.
for being
Thank you.
here. This is awesome. We know it's not the
Time.
most optimal time, but it's awesome. So yes, are there any last questions for anybody? And of course, if we do go over time and get kicked out, we will stick around and we will hang out. Any last questions? Yeah.
If you did have $500,000 in your budget, what would you do with it?
Oh my God.
Build a better arena.
Get
Build
a-
a better broadcast room.
Get a better director.
New PCs.
Wow.
Zinger.
Did he pay you to ask that question?
That's it. I mean,
he
that's
just wanted a chance to say
That was the alley-oop right there.
Good Lord. Yeah. Invest in equipment and broadcasting. Broadcasting is such a path forward. It really, really is. Yeah. Agreed? Disagree?
Yeah, I'd say the space.
Yeah.
That's the rate at which we want to grow. We just don't have the space, and having more space is.
Pay for more trips for students.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are so many people that want students involved, and students don't have the money to travel themselves. So we try to use as much as our university money as we can, but sometimes we tell our students, hey, you got to cover the cost of flight, we'll cover your registration and lodging and food, but you got to get there yourself. So if we could give students even a lower barrier to access, that'd be even better. So having money, yes, we would invest it in broadcasting, invest it in space, but invest it in student opportunities for travel as well. Yeah. Or just give myself a raise. Either one. Yeah. Thank you all for being
Thank
here.
you,
Really
really.
appreciate the time, everybody.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.